everybody? It's Nadia and Nicole, the Wealth Twins, and we're back with another episode of the Wealth Twins Show. Today, we're going to talk about the easiest ways to begin wealth creation, not only for you, but also for your family. So with that, Nadia, I think we should start it off. What do you want to do? What do you think is one of the easiest ways for you to begin wealth creation?
Now, when I think about wealth creation, I think about things that you can do on your own to start building wealth for you and your family. So, one of the first things that comes to mind is something you have a lot of control over, and that is saving more of the money that you actually make. And when you save this money, it's very important about where you save that money. So, when I think about where I would save that money, it would definitely be in a high yield saving account. Now, the reason why I would pick a high yield savings account over a regular savings account is because of the interest that account pays for you. There's tons of high interest, high yield savings accounts right now that are paying interest over 4 or 5%. Why put your money into one of these bigger banks that are paying you pennies, not even a penny, like 0.01% on your money, when you could be making 4 or 5%, putting your money in a high yield savings account and it's doing the same thing that it would do in a regular bank account. So, like I said, when I'm talking about wealth creation, first things comes to mind, how much control do I have over creating my wealth? And one of the things that I have the main control over, it's saving my money and being able to put that money into an account that's going to help me build up that money. What about you, Nicole?
Now, I think we need to take a step back and first, one, a lot of people are going to probably tell you, oh, bank accounts, that's not wealth creation, that's wealth protection. So I'm kind of on the line with that, but I do think if you're going to use a bank, a high yield savings account would be where you put your money. But I would take a step back before that and say, if you really want to start wealth creation, and I know you don't like when I say this, but I think it starts with your income. And the way to start building wealth creation is to really start making more money in the first place. And then you go to where you're putting that money that you're making. First, you got to be able to cover your expenses, right? Because there's no wealth creation until you stop living paycheck to paycheck. So you have to make enough money to cover your expenses. And then from there, what do you do with the extra money you make? And it's always easier if you make more money. And the way to make more money, I know people might say if you're working a job, you don't have much control over it, but you do have control over the skills that you can actually build in order to make more money. So you can always build a skill that could take you from where you are to the next level in terms of income. And I believe people have control over that. So that's my little aside from that. But once you do have the money that you have, that you're not no longer paycheck to paycheck, and you want to know where to put your money, yes, a high yield savings account would be the first place I would say when it comes to wealth creation. But the reason why it's not sufficient is because of inflation, right? Any savings account is not going to pay you more than what's currently going on with inflation. And because of that, your bank is actually making you lose money. Yes, you're making more money on that money than you would just hiding it under your mattress, but a high yield savings account is not going to be enough to actually create wealth because of the negative effects inflation has on buying power. And I can get more into that if you want, Nadia, or I can give you where I think would be the easiest way for anyone to start building wealth creation once they have the income. What do you want me to do?
No, well, I want to stay on this bank account thing. So,
Okay.
when it comes to high yield savings account, we get a lot of questions about how many bank accounts should I have? How many savings accounts? And I think you should have as many savings accounts as you need in order to fund the goals that you have. So, one of the
Oh well,
things I
let's
do,
let's
I
let's
have,
make sure that we're not talking about have 100 savings accounts, okay? Because then
well,
if you
no,
tell
but I'm
people,
saying have a number of savings accounts that you can manage and that you know what the goal is of each one of those accounts. And make sure you're not getting charged any fees to have these accounts open. Most banks do not charge you a fee to have a savings account open, but they may have a minimum a balance that is required for you to keep that account open and not have to pay the fees, but it might be linked to a checking account. It depends, right? But if for me, I have about 8 different savings accounts. Now, all of them are high yield savings accounts, and I have them split across different banks because I want to do different things with them. That helps me with my wealth creation because it allows me to put a pot of money away for a certain reason and then be able to use that pot of money when the time comes. But I also have another pot of money that is for a different priority, right? So that's one thing about wealth creation. Now, before we jump into anything else, I know a lot of people might come out to us and say, well, what do you guys think about CDs? I don't like CDs mainly. Primarily, I don't like CDs because of the withdrawal penalty they have. If you need your money early, most CDs will hit you with a penalty, right? My thing is, you're better off getting a high yield savings account because right now, the interest rates that a lot of them are paying right now are close enough to a CD, and you don't have a penalty if you need to tap that money earlier before the CD ends, right? So there are some big accounts that allow you to have a penalty free CD, and we can talk about that later. But I think once you have your bank account set up and you have the high yield savings account set up, then you can use your income. Now, Nicole and I disagree on the fact that your income is something that you can control. My whole thing is I think when you're getting paid by someone, you have less control over how much income you make. And if you do have control over that income, it really is, it's going to take you a lot longer in order to get a raise than it will be in order to manage the money you currently have and use it in a way that's more efficiently. So you don't need to make more income in order to cover your expenses. You can also lower your expenses. And that's
Okay.
when I say, when it comes to wealth creation, I want as much control as possible.
I agree with that. That you have two ways to skin a cat, right? You can either make more money or you can cut your expenses. So I agree with that. Now, when it comes to high yield savings account, I want to make sure that everyone knows not every savings account is a high yield savings account. So you need to look to make sure if you have a high yield savings account. And what is a high yield savings account? It's a savings account that gives you a higher yield than the majority of banks, right? And typically they are online banks, like for instance, Capital One 360 or uh, Ally
Marcus.
Bank. Okay, these are online banks that will give you a high yield savings account. What you don't want to do is try to go to Chase or Citibank or Bank of America. You're not going to get a very high interest rate on your money just putting it in a savings account. So when we talk about savings account, it's not just any savings account. It's a savings account that's paying you a higher yield than a traditional bank account. And most of those banks are online versus brick and mortar where you can walk in and actually talk to someone and go to a teller and get your savings account open there. You have to open these accounts online. And it's
With the
pretty easy to
exception of
do so.
Capital One, you can open it
Capital
up
One.
at a branch.
You can, but they want you to mainly use their online services. So when you are a Capital One 360 customer, which I am, they typically try to steer you. You could get some help in the actual bank, but they typically try to steer you into mainly dealing with online. But they do have Capital One cafes too, which are very nice. So, but that's what we're saying. This is the difference between not just any savings account, a high yield savings account versus a regular savings account. So that's one thing. Two, when it comes to the different types of accounts, I know a lot of people talk about savings account mainly being used for emergency funds. And I want to go deeper into what Nadia was saving for different priorities. I like to save for something which I call a sunshine account. Now, not every time that happens, life is going to happen, but not everything in life that happens has to be negative. So, emergency account is mainly to make you safe on those rainy days when something negative happens. A sunshine account, I say, is something that you can save for when good things happen. Maybe one of your friends is getting married overseas, or maybe you have a class reunion, something like that. Something that you want to go to, you know, is going to happen in the future, or most likely can happen. Or maybe someone in your family is having a baby. Anything, any positive event that most likely can happen when life happens, you can save for it in a sunshine fund. So I like to not let people just think savings accounts are only meant to protect me and only meant to, take care of emergency funds. You could use it as a benefit for other priorities to make you happy as well. Okay, so now that we're done with the savings accounts, I want to talk about the next account, which I believe is actually the easiest way if you're really talking about how to begin wealth creation. So, again, I talked about income. Now, we talked about what to do with that income. The way to do that after you go into the savings account, to really start building wealth creation, I would say you need to focus on opening up a brokerage account. So, Nadia, would you like to talk about brokerage accounts?
I would like to talk about brokerage accounts. Like, I agree. I think after you have your savings account set up, high yield savings account, you can start using that money and funneling it into a brokerage account. Now, it depends on what brokerage account you're going to use, right? Since a lot of brokerage houses want to go after retail investors, there's been a huge explosion of accounts that you can open, especially as a beginner, right? So you have apps, you have different accounts that you could open up at a full service broker or online accounts and stuff. But the thing is, you have to understand what kind of person you are. If you're a beginner investor, chances are you're probably going to need more help and more resources than someone who's been investing for a while, right? So you don't want to tend to go towards the apps because you're not going to get as much customer service. And a lot of those apps might charge you for the resources that may come free with other brokerage accounts that have been around longer and have maybe a brick and mortar location. Like Charles Schwab has some brick and mortar locations, Fidelity does too, and Vanguard does too. Um, but the thing is, you have to understand what kind of investor you are, especially when you're opening up a brokerage account. So for me, when it comes to beginning wealth creation, I think you should go to the brokers that have the most customer service for you and give you resources for free. So that would be Charles Schwab, Vanguard, Fidelity, right? They give you tools online that you can use for free that these other brokerages are charging you for. You don't want to just depend on the app. And a lot of the times, these same three that I mentioned before have apps that can be convenient for you to use when you're on the go and you want to do some research or you want to buy something instead of having to be able to sit in front of your desktop or your laptop, right? So if you're a beginner, look for the accounts that give you the most things for free, that have the most flexibility, and also provide the most products for you, because you want to be able to have a wide variety of things that you can start investing in, especially if you're looking to build wealth creation or start wealth creation. Some of the things you want to look at is if they may only do stocks. You don't want to do only stocks. You want to have something that you're able to buy index funds on. You want to be able to maybe buy fractional shares if you're just dipping your toe in, or stock slices if you're just dipping your toe into the
Hold on,
stock
Nadia. I
market.
think you're going. I think you're going past the point. We're going to talk about go more into
All
brokerage
right.
accounts and why. But before that, I want to go back to one. If you don't know what a brokerage account is, because we're
Okay.
taking it as like we think that it's just a given that people understand what a brokerage
Yeah. Feel
account
free
is.
to stop me. If I go too far, I have to bring it back. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So a
fine.
brokerage account really is, consider it the middleman that gets you to invest in the stock market, the bond market, okay? Just like you would need a realtor to invest in the real estate market, you would need a broker, a stockbroker company to invest in the stock market for you, okay? Now, you can do that with through by
And don't
yourself.
confuse these with financial advisors.
I was going to
Okay.
say that. So a brokerage account is something you can open up on your own, and you can access the stock market just through their platform, their computer platform or their app. Now, these some of these brokerage houses also have financial advisors in house as a service on top of that to help people who feel they need a little bit more help when it comes to managing their investments. Okay, so you can open up a brokerage account without a financial advisor, but a lot of the brokerage accounts come with an additional service of offering financial advisors to help you with their products. Okay, now if you want to know more about what exactly a brokerage account is and why you need it, there's a video that I'm going to put up that we did. I think it's going to be very helpful, and it'll explain more into detail the different types of brokers and which ones you might want to look at based on what type of person you are. Okay, so now Nadia, she was going into the next phase of why I say a broker's account is good for wealth creation is because you can use it to access the stock market. Now, when I say access the stock market, I'm not just talking about stocks. Nadia was telling you, you want to look for a brokerage company that does more than just sell stocks. They want to be able to, you want one that's going to be able to sell index funds,
Hmm.
mutual funds, ETFs, give you some access to bonds. Other maybe alternative investments could be something you might look into. But
You
you
also want to
also,
look at the brokerage accounts that allow you to actually be able to set up a retirement account at that
mhm,
broker too. Some of these online apps and stuff, they don't allow you to open certain accounts. You cannot open an IRA at every one of these. You
yeah.
cannot open up anything other than a brokerage account.
And
So
I
you
think
want to
another
look
thing
at
you want
that
to
too.
look at is fees when you open up a brokerage account, which I think is very important. Nani and
Yeah.
I both believe in live customer service is something that's very important to us too. And a lot of the apps out here do not provide live customer service. They provide live email and live contact, but it's not the same as getting on the phone with someone and having them answer a question for you. Okay.
Exactly.
So I think when it comes to the apps, the way that they are beneficial for people is that they make it very convenient, right? They put it right on your phone, and they give you the ability to say, like with Acorns is an app that is a brokerage, but with that, you're paying for that convenience. Okay. You have some limited features where you have a limited amount of funds you can invest in, But also, they give you that feature where you can round up your money. So it makes it very easy to start investing by just not even thinking about it, put a set and forget it on the money that you're going to put aside for
Mhm.
investing. But they're charging you higher fees because of that. So they make it convenient for you through these apps to start buying investments, but you are paying for those conveniences.
Yeah, even if you're not paying per trade, you're gonna pay on the other end.
Yeah. So with that, so when it comes to wealth creation, you definitely need, and I think Nadia and I are both in agreement, you need to have a brokerage account. And three that we often recommend, but we're not going to tell you which one to go to because it's all based on your own personality. But the three that we have, right, would be Vanguard, Fidelity, and also Charles Schwab. We have accounts at all these companies, and you can look at them because, like we said, we did our little analysis of them, and we decided what we wanted when it came to a brokerage company. And if you don't know, Nadia and I both used to work on Wall Street, and we understand the different things that go inside a brokerage account, what you want to really look for. And these three basically had everything that we were looking for. And they also have apps available as well. All right, Nadia. So, what would you
Well,
like to
if
do?
we're let's stick on accounts. If you're just talking about brokerage accounts, maybe you want to start trading for or
You want
investing
to talk
for
about
your
the
children.
different types of accounts inside a brokerage account?
Yeah, we could
Brokerage
talk about
company?
different accounts inside the brokerage account. I'm not going to go into all of the retirement accounts you can do. But one thing I will say, if you're focused on wealth creation, how about opening up a custodial account for your children, right? If you're
Mm-hmm.
really thinking about wealth creation and generational wealth, you can open up accounts for your children. And Fidelity has an account that teens could start trading in themselves, but you need a parent to open it up. But this is wealth creation too. So not only it's a brokerage account for the individual, you can open up brokerage accounts for your children and really start investing for them early because the
Yeah.
earlier you invest, the more they can take on risks and they can benefit from compound interest. What do you think, Nicole?
Yeah, I agree. So the two custodial accounts that Nadia is talking about, the two types of custodial accounts that you can open up at a brokerage company, some would be a UGMA and a UTMA, right? Some states, correct me if I'm wrong, Nadia, some states allow you to open up one versus the other, but basically they're a custodial account, which means an adult opens it up on behalf of a minor. And then you can actually have control of what investment goes into that account. So that's
Hmm.
also something you might want to look at as to the brokerage company. What accounts does this brokerage company allow you to open? Just like a bank allows you to open up a checking account, a CD account, a savings account, a brokerage company will allow you to open up a retirement account, a custodial account, and some open up will allow you to open up a margin account. Now, when it comes to margin accounts, I do not suggest that
I do
as a
not
way of
suggest
wealth
margin
creation.
accounts for wealth creation.
There are people that do use it, but as a beginner, I will not say that that's something you need to do as wealth creation because that comes with
Exactly.
something called leverage, right? They give you an ability to buy more than what you actually have in your account in terms of cash. Now, yes, that is a good idea if you can do the right trades and it goes with you. But if that when it comes to leverage, it's a double-edged sword because if the trade moves against you, you are required to cover that balance, okay? And you got to put that money in an account as soon as they tell you you're getting called on that margin account. So you can have wealth creation account, but you can have wealth destruction very
Wealth
easily.
destruction.
Okay, and it
Stay away
actually
from those accounts if you are a beginner.
and just to make it an easy thing to understand when we're talking about leverage. And so there was a article in the news, I think yesterday. I just happened to see it. Bruno Mars actually is 50 million. This is I'm not sure if it's gossip or not, but it's on a whole bunch of different sites that he's actually $50 million in debt to MGM Casino. Okay, so that meant that they gave him a line of credit basically to start gambling there because he has his name Bruno Mars and they know he has some assets behind him, but he is $50 million in debt. So he probably thought, okay, they gave me this line of credit. They gave me leverage. I can gamble with it. Because that's basically what you're doing when you're dealing with leverage, right? You're gambling.
In
But what
certain
happened to him?
situations. In certain
In certain
situations.
situations, I know Nadia will get into that. But when it comes to this, he was gambling and the leverage moved against him. Okay, so now he owes that 50 million. So I just want to put that in.
Well, it
Okay,
means you're gonna be singing for a while.
he's gonna be
We're
singing
gonna
for a
expect some
while.
albums coming out.
He's gonna be singing at MGM for a while. Okay. They basically like own him now with that. So that was just an aside point. But yeah, so that's just an easy understanding of, when something goes your way, when you have leverage, it's a good thing. But when it goes the opposite way, it could be a very, very bad thing.
Okay,
Nadia, what would you
well,
like to
going
talk
back into
about?
custodial accounts, like when you talk about custodial accounts, it's essentially a irrevocable trust, right? And this is the kind of trust that you could set up without the need of a lawyer. You sign some paperwork at the brokerage house, and then you can open up this account for your child. Now, understand that the money in this account is no longer yours. You can put money into that account, you could trade or invest any way you want, but that money is for the sake of the child. So, no matter what you want to do, once that account is opened up, it is for the child. So, you can't just take the money out or do what you want. It has to be for the benefit of the child, just to give you guys more clarification about a custodial account. And if you're looking to open up one, just call the customer service of any brokerage account, brokerage house, and ask them, hey, do you have custodial accounts? What do I have to do? They'll just send you over some paperwork. It just requires a signature, and you can get started right away. All
Yeah, so
right.
it is a way to start building, creating wealth for your child as
Yes.
opposed to just yourself. So you give them
Hmm.
a head start because one of the main things you want to be, or want to be doing in the stock market is having time. So the more time you're in the market, especially for your child, and when they get that custodial, sorry, the irrevocable trust, when they get that, uh, they have the ability to take the account on themselves, which is the age of maturity. That's
Yeah,
when
that
they are.
depending on the state, it's either 18 between the ages of 18 to 25 years old.
So they actually get to take over that account. But meanwhile, that account should have been compounding, depending on investments that you have in it. That account would have been compounding and growing for them over time. So it's a great way to give your kids a head start before they start working and before they're old enough to actually be able to invest on their own.
Exactly. So,
Now,
Nicole, if we're talking about brokerage accounts and we're talking about accounts for wealth creation, what would be the next account you think a person would need in order to start wealth creation if they had the other ones covered by now?
so are you talking about, are we still in brokerage accounts? Or are we going to talk about, a regular brokerage account? This is an account that is not, it's not a retirement account. It's not a custodial account. It's actually your account that you actually open up just for investing purposes. Okay. So
Yeah,
you have to have a brokerage account at a brokerage company to also help you with wealth creation, because there are limits on how much you can place in your retirement account, but there's no
exactly.
limits on what you can actually buy and also how much you can put into a brokerage account. So I really believe that if you really are interested in creating wealth or wealth creation, then you have to open up a separate brokerage account, which is outside of your job's retirement account or outside of a retirement account. You need a brokerage account.
Yep.
Okay.
But since we brought up retirement accounts, do you think retirement accounts are ways for you to create wealth? Are they great for wealth creation?
It's definitely great for wealth accumulation, I would say. Wealth accumulation, they will, because depending on what account you have, like say you have a 401k or 401(b) through your job, if your job is matching money with what you put into that account, yeah, it's great wealth creation because you're able to get free money. And again, what I mentioned earlier was time. The earlier you start putting into a retirement account, because you have a limit as to how much you could put in per year, the earlier you get in and the more times you get to have that type of uh, matching from your company, yes, it's a way to build wealth creation. Now,
I would agree with that. I think everyone should have a retirement account, especially if you're focused on wealth creation. Because one, if you have an employer sponsored account and they do the match, it's like getting free money anyway. So that will help you speed up your wealth creation,
yeah,
right?
this is what I was
But
saying. Yep.
also on top of that, you are not being taxed immediately. And some of them, you got to get taxed before, but that money is growing in tax free, you know? So that's a great way for you to have wealth creation.
Well, when it comes to the Roth IRA, you're putting in after tax money. So all that money is growing, and when you take that money out, you're not going to be taxed with it. So that is definitely a way to grow your wealth and not worry about taxes at the same time. Okay, but there is some limitation and some rules around it, which we're not going to get into today. But definitely, I think we're both in agreement that if you want to build wealth, you need a retirement account as well. Now, outside of these accounts, what is the next thing you think would be an easier way? Maybe not the easiest way, but it is an easy way for someone to start beginning wealth creation, because it's not difficult to understand the concept, but it might be more difficult to actually get the money down to start doing it. What do you think is a? Where do you think I'm going with this, Nadia?
I'm guessing you're going into buying a multifamily house.
Yes. We are twins.
We're twins. Now, I guess, yeah, so one of the ways, I think if you want to create wealth, you can go about it. Like I think about it in three different mountains, right? One could be through investing into the stock market. One would be investing in real estate, and another one would be investing into a business. So I think investing in real estate is one of the ones that can really turbocharge your wealth, especially if you're looking for wealth creation. And is one that both Nicole and I did. But
I would
if you're
say there's
looking to
one more
invest in
mountain, and I'm gonna
property,
bring it back to investing in skills. Okay,
huh?
skills. I think there's one more mountain is investing in skills. So if you
Okay.
get those skills, you can also do wealth creation.
Yes, but I think if you really want to turbocharge your wealth, one of the easiest ways is to start investing in real estate. Now, not just any real estate. Don't go out there. Well, this is my opinion. I wouldn't suggest you go out there flipping houses and doing that. That's one kind of method. What I
And
like to
a
do,
lot, it worked for a lot of people,
it
but
works for
it
a lot of
depends on
people. I wouldn't
your risk
suggest it
type.
because it's just not for me. And if you're watching this, maybe you're similar in personality to me and risk tolerance. I would rather a multifamily place because one, you can use it as a place for you to live and also rent out the space too. So not only are you putting a roof over your head, but you're also providing a roof for someone else who can help you pay the mortgage on that. And that will help you speed up the amount of equity that you have in that house, or you could speed up how much money you're saving in order to, if you wanted to ever start flipping, at least you have something that you could rest your head and say, you know what, this one's secure. Let me go out and start um renovating houses and maybe flipping and making a profit off of that, right?
Now, what do
So
you
that's one.
think about people when they say no, multifamilies are just buying real estate? They don't actually create wealth right off the bat because you got such a big mortgage. How do
That's
you?
not true at all. You could, if you buy a multifamily
Well,
under four,
if you buy it a certain way, it could definitely be a money pit, right? It could be a money pit. So you got
well,
to
if you
buy it.
anything could be a money pit if you don't run the numbers right, right? So I suggest before you even go to the bank and try to get pre-qualified or qualify for a mortgage, you need to run the numbers on that. That is, when I say run the numbers, you need to go into the neighborhood that you're looking to buy that investment property in, find out what the rents are in that neighborhood, figure out how much you would qualify for based on what your credit background is, how much money you're going to have put down, and then look to see if the numbers make sense for you. Can I charge the rents that will help me make some kind of profit on the mortgage I'm going to take out, or help me actually keep some money in my pocket? It may not cover the whole mortgage, but it'll allow me to pay a part of this mortgage, and it's going to be less than me renting something on my own. And instead of
Mhm.
renting something on my own, I actually own something I'm building equity in. And at the same time, I'm saving money on my living costs, which is the highest cost that we have most of the time.
Yeah.
So I don't, you always got to run the numbers. And I think when it comes to multifamilies, especially versus a single family, you're going to create more wealth because you're going to keep more money in your pocket.
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to running the numbers and where you're buying this investment, right?
Yep,
Because you also have to take on when you're doing multifamilies, you're going to become a landlord, and becoming a landlord has its own risk associated with
I
it.
agree.
So not only do you have the risk of getting a tenant who's not going to pay you on time or maybe not pay you, but you also have the risk of when you can get a tenant. Maybe you might not be able to get a tenant for a few months. Can you handle that mortgage with no tenant there?
I
So
agree.
if you run those numbers and realize, yeah, I can do that. And one way to do that is to not buy a multifamily that really is taking up too much of your income, right? Because like Nadia said, the housing part of the expenses is probably the biggest expense you have. So don't take on a multifamily that's going to be so much higher that it takes up so much of a percentage of your income that you can't get by without having a tenant there. So you
I
have
agree.
to
I
run the
don't think you
numbers and
should
you have
buy
to
a
do it in a certain
multifamily
way.
if you have to depend on the tenant to help you pay the mortgage because you're going to run into a lot of trouble if that tenant decides to not pay you.
Hmm. Now, I think a lot of people focus on the buying of real estate, and it's just like when I think about this, I think about marriage. A lot of people focus on the wedding and don't actually focus on the marriage. A
Okay.
lot of people tend to focus on the buying of real estate, but they don't focus on the actual maintaining of real estate. And those are two different ball games. And again, that goes back to what exactly do you have to do to make buying real estate a way to create wealth, okay? So, what I say it's like people thinking about wedding versus the marriage and people thinking about buying versus maintaining. The biggest cost you're going to have when it comes to that house on a year or the multifamily or any house, any type of property you buy that you really need to understand is the maintenance of that property.
I agree.
Because that's really the difference between renting and buying. You are
Because I'm gonna tell
responsible
you
for
right now that
maintaining
maintenance
that.
may be more than what you put in as a down payment. I'm gonna tell you that, and that could happen in the first year.
And you all of a sudden turn out your roof is leaking. That's $40,000 right there, and you're like, wait a minute, where did that come from? So those are things that you have to understand. Yes, it's a way to build wealth. Yes, it's a way to create wealth and actually generational wealth if you can keep it in the family. But if you don't understand what it means to maintain that property, making sure that you have some type of rainy day fund, making sure you understand how taxes affect that property, because if you don't pay your taxes on that property, they could take it away from you as well. Okay, these things you have to understand that real estate can again work against you or it can work for you. And I think that's with any one of these ways to really build wealth or for wealth creation. I really say every single thing we talked about here can actually work for you or work against you if you don't really think about what you're doing and really have a plan on how to go about it.
I think another way to say that is do your due diligence. And if people throw that word around, but what that really means is understand exactly what you're buying or what you're doing, especially when it comes to your money. Read whatever paperwork someone puts in front of you, run your numbers, see if it works out for you, and see if it gives you the flexibility you need in order to create wealth for you and your family.
Now, I think we need to make clear that Nadia and I, we are not overly exaggerating anything, and we want to make sure that people understand the risks as well as the rewards when it comes to this, because we're not telling you anything that we haven't done ourselves, and we want to make sure that people understand going in with eyes wide open when they're doing all this stuff. Because yes, it's a very fun thing to say, I'm building wealth and I'm doing this and I'm investing, but again, you have to go in understanding. Anytime you can make money, you can also lose money. So with that, you have to be cautious, and I guess that's for me and Nadia. We are more on the cautious side, but we understand that we have to do this in order to make our money grow for us, because we can't just depend on a bank account, which I said earlier. For me, is more of a way to protect wealth rather than to grow your wealth. Okay, so we have to do things to grow our wealth, and the things that we have to do to grow our wealth will require some type of risk, but we have to go in with the eyes wide open and understanding those risks before we make some big moves, because a lot of people get burned thinking, I'm just going to put this money in and everything is going to be great. And Nadia and I don't want to lead you into that area, making you think that this is something that can happen. All right, so I just want to make clear about that. But there is a lot of upside if you do it correctly. And what is one of your upsides, Nadia, doing it correctly? When's the last time
One
you
of the
worked?
upsides, you get to retire 11 years ago. If you take the risk with the income that you make, and you do your due diligence, and you are willing to sacrifice speed for what you think it's going to be long term. And I heard this quote the other day that I thought was great. It said, the devil sprints, and they'll give you something fast today that is willing to take from you tomorrow. But if you're dealing with God, you're going to deal more of a marathon. But if you work the longer term to get that, you get to keep it for longer. And that's just the way I'm looking at it. You don't even have to look at it from a religious point of view. That's just a better way of thinking about it. To me, if it comes quick, it can leave you quickly. But if you take a while to get it and you do it properly, you're more likely to keep that with you for a longer time period.
Yeah, so I would say outside of it, even with outside of money, I think it's the rule that you can use for a lot of different things. It, when you work for something, it's more likely to last. Or if it's harder to get, it's more likely to last. The easier it gets, the easiest to go. It can go. Okay, just like win a lottery, it can go just like that. But if you work towards it, it might be a little harder for you to lose that money
Hey, that's
quicker.
even the same thing when it comes to spouses.
Yeah. Yep. Men dating, everything. You don't have to be spouses. You better learn that rule before you get married.
Exactly. If it's too easy, you might want to walk away.
Better walk away. So yeah, but with that, I want to say another thing you get with this wealth creation, especially the way that we're talking about it. Every single way that we spoke about, and I'm not sure if Nadia realized this, can make you passive income. Okay, you can get passive income on your savings account with the high yield savings account. Not very much, but it is passive income you're making,
Yep.
and passive income is saying when you do an action, if you just do the immediate upfront work, can you make money while you sleep? And it's an
Yeah.
easy way to understand. but can you make money without continuously being there to provide your time with it? And you can actually do that with bank accounts. You can do that with investment accounts, and you can do that with real estate. And especially, you can do that with multifamily real estate. So we both make passive income on our multifamily real estate. So I wanted to bring that up as well.
That is
Yeah.
true.
Now, what is another way, which does not have as much barrier entry when it comes to wealth creation, but most people don't actually think about it. And I think, well, in my opinion, I don't think many people think about it when it comes to wealth creation, but it's a low barrier entry. And I want to say is actually entrepreneurship. The main barrier entry, I would say, is two things. One is your risk tolerance. Two is the skills you need to start it, right? Because you have to be self motivated. It's very different to being at a career or a job where someone's giving you a paycheck and all you have to do is show up and do your job and you get a paycheck. So you lose that stability, but you do, if you find the right skills and you find the right business, you can definitely make it a wealth creation opportunity.
I I think it depends on the business. I know we're going to get a ton of comments where people are saying, "What do you mean? There's a low barrier entry when it comes to entrepreneurship." It depends on what business you want,
Yep.
right? And
You can
it
start a
also
business really
depends on
with
how
a
you want to
hundred
start that
dollars.
business. I opened up a cafe. I bootstrapped that cafe with my own funds. I didn't go to a bank to borrow money to start my business or anything. But there was ways I did that. I went to auctions. I bought my machines from auctions. I worked there a lot myself. Now, will I use opening up a cafe as a way to create wealth? No.
Yeah.
I would look at
But
businesses that
you learn from it.
uh,
It's one you got to learn a lot of lessons.
I did learn a lot of skills that I was able to use in other businesses. But when you're looking at a restaurant business or like something that's food service related and you depend on employees and you have a high
You got
you
to
have
run the
high cost
numbers.
month to month, I wouldn't generally say that is a wealth creation business, but there's plenty of businesses out there that can create wealth for you. So if your main priority is to create wealth, look at businesses that have a low barrier of entry, low startup costs, and have a high potential to bring you wealth. And there's plenty out there. Just don't go for a lot of traditional ones thinking, oh, I'm starting a business and I'm going to be rich. Because I'm going to tell you right now, your employees are going to get paid more than you
Hmm.
if you're not running the business the right way. And you're going to feel like you're not creating wealth at all, but you're creating it for other people. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to be honest there.
Yeah, you have to run the numbers, right? And sometimes something that looks like, oh, this is glamorous and like, oh, it's easy to do. Just because it's easy to do does not mean you can make money on it. But when it comes to food services, there are people that can make a lot of money in food services that do a lot of a great deal of wealth creation when it comes to businesses.
I
You have
agree.
to understand your skills and understand how the business works. And I think a lot of people misunderstand. They think they have a talent, they think they have a skill, and that they think they can start a business because of it. These are two different things. Being a business runner and being a business owner is a totally different thing.
Yeah. You can either own your job or own a business, and they're completely different. And I'm going to tell you, once you step your foot in, you'll understand which role you just took on.
Yeah, but
So
it's
do it
definitely
properly.
again one of those things. But you could become a millionaire by
I
starting
agree.
your own business, and
I agree.
most millionaires have become millionaires because of starting businesses, and that's just something that it is just a fact, right?
And you know what? I think I'll give a book recommendation. One of the best books you could read about this would be the E Myth Revisited, if I'm getting the name right.
Yeah,
I
that's right.
believe that is a great one you should read if you're thinking about opening up a business. Read that book and understand. And he gives you a lot of information, a lot of breakdown, understand what you're actually getting into. It's a great book if you're looking to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So it does take work. I think if I was to do everything all over again, I would say first, the best thing to do is to keep your job while you're researching and understanding a business, and then start slowly bringing yourself into a full role as a business owner. And I know people will say, well, I don't have the amount of time. I don't have time to do that. I work so many hours. And I still remember, I'll give credit, Brandon Carter, he talks about how we all have 24 hours in a day, right? But he says, look, if you do that math, was it 154 hours a week?
I don't know, like
Can you do that?
160. You better pull out your calculator right now.
Oh gosh. Let me go real quick. We have time, right? Let me see. I didn't say I know how to do multiplication, guys, okay? I don't know how many people know how to do 24 hours times 7. Let's see. 168 hours a week. Now, Just doing the math, because he says, look, let's take the time you sleep. Let's say 9 hours a night. Then let's take the time you work. Let's do 40 hours a week. He just went through a bunch of different exercises. Let's see if you want to spend 20 hours a week with your family, all this stuff. You end up still having 30 to 50 hours a week left over that you have no idea where that time went, but that's the time you can actually use to start something on the side. Okay. And then you go through those other methods that we're talking about. You save your money by lowering your expenses. You put that money in the bank account, and then you start figuring out what to do with the money that you have in the bank account and those moves you need to make. And if you want to start a business, you have to have the money up front just to give you some type of safety net, but also for you give yourself time to understand the skills and what's necessary to start a successful business. Now, it's hard to make a profitable business, and we've actually outlasted a couple people when it comes to years in business with different things that we've done, but it's because we come from it from a money angle first and then say, does this business make sense? And then from there we figure out how to plan it out. But we just don't go, oh, I love it because I learned it before. Don't do that. Oh, I love it, let's just go do it. Because it doesn't mean it's not going to make money, and doesn't mean it will make money. So you have to understand those things. So again, going in eyes wide open. But it's definitely a way, and it's an easy way. Even young kids can figure out how to start a business, and they actually have the most risk of, you can take all the failures you want as a young kid because you have less responsibility. And but you can definitely make a huge dent in wealth creation, become very wealthy by starting a business. All
So
right.
just to give a quick recap, I say the accounts you need would be savings accounts, brokerage accounts. That includes your retirement accounts and
Well,
custodial
instead of
accounts.
accounts, ways to build
Okay.
wealth creation.
So just to wrap up the ways that you want to create wealth creation, we gave you how to use your money, where to put your money, and what you can do later on that
Different
can help
opportunities.
you speed up and actually leverage the money that you have.
Yep. So I would say income, bank accounts, brokerage accounts, real estate, businesses.
Business.
Okay, so that's 5 ways. If you want to start, easy ways, could be easy, could be hard, doesn't have to be more difficult than they need to be. But these are easy ways to begin wealth creation that we suggest for beginners. All right. So, with that, I hope you guys like it. Please give us some feedback. If you like this show, if you like this episode, write yes, Nadia and Nicole down at the bottom, and subscribe and share it with someone you care about. And until the next time, we'll see you later.